Welcome to the report from Tiger Mountain, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about right-wing populism versus the far right. On tonight's show, I've got some interesting ideas to share with you. Stick around and listen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about right-wing populism versus the far right. Now, some would say that right-wing populism is the far right, and who am I to say? I don't know. Maybe it is. It's certainly connected. But I guess, what I wanted to delineate is that there is this movement that's quite global at the moment of right-wing populism, and I will list some of the politicians that you would fall under the right-wing populist banner. Obviously, Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, Marine Le Pen, Geert Wilders, Meloni in Italy, the AfD in Germany, a whole bunch of other people, that guy in Argentina, Malay. So, these people would fall under the nexus. Some of them have slightly different, political. The guy in Argentina is a bit more of a libertarian, and so he called himself a libertarian anarchist, I think, or something like that at one stage. So, right-wing populism appears to be people who are anti-immigration, who have a kind of nationalist mindset, nationalist economic views, and are anti a lot of the agenda of the current new left, which is all the woke stuff, all the stuff to do with transgender and gay, not necessarily gay rights, but all the stuff about teaching it in schools, a lot of this kind of stuff. So and obviously not buying the climate change arguments. But one of the other things about many of the people who are right-wing populists is they're pro-Zionist. Like say Fox News and Breitbart. Now, there are people within the right who are further to the right than right-wing populism. And I guess they would probably, in my view, fall directly under what you'll call the far right. And they are people that are really opposed to the state of Israel. Because essentially I think they see, that the globalist agenda, which of course people say is Jewish, or they would probably agree with that. They would say, yes, it is a Jewish agenda, even though it involves many people of different ethnicities. And that, the globalist side of the agenda is about destroying Western European countries, which are all basically English-speaking countries, and all the European countries. And then the flip side of that is the Zionist agenda, which is the building of a nationalist Jewish ethno-state in Israel, in the state of Israel. So people on the far right would oppose both. And the interesting thing about the far left at the moment is that the far right's opposition to Israel actually almost sits hand in hand with the far left's opposition to Israel. They probably have different reasons for opposing Israel, but it's strange that they're bedfellows at the moment. So, it's interesting. I probably, if I were to position myself, I am sympathetic to some of what the far right says, but I'm also quite sympathetic to what right-wing populism says. So, in a sense, I fluctuate. I'm in the middle there. And sometimes I understand the pragmatism of the populist right, and sometimes I'm attracted to some of the ideas of, politics that are further to the right than that. It's very interesting, I think. And many people on the far right criticize anybody who believes that the populist right will have a positive influence. Many of them see it as not radical enough. Many of them see it as essentially Israeli stooges because of most of the right-wing populist support for Israel, which means that they're essentially Jewish puppets in their kind of language. So, in my opinion, right-wing populism, and the people on the far right, this is how I see it. If the people on the far right are actually serious about what they're saying, right-wing populism is a stepping stone, in my opinion. If they really want to take things further right, they aren't getting anywhere unless right-wing populism becomes a kind of global phenomena. And let's be honest, right-wing populism is becoming a global phenomena. So, one of the strange things about, say, they've just elected, Trump has picked J.D. Vance. Now, J.D. Vance is quite a vocal Zionist. Now, a lot of people say, see, that's typical. He's another Israeli stooge, another Jewish puppet. Okay, maybe, maybe that is true. But I think it's very interesting because that doesn't sit with the ideology of America first, which is the ideology of Trump, and the ideology of how is supporting the state of Israel America first? It isn't. So, but if that philosophy of nationalism and right-wing populism becomes the major political force in America, people will ask that question. Why do we support the state of Israel? So, and then that suits the agenda of the far right, and also it actually suits the agenda of the far left, apropos of Israel. So, you know, like, I really think that people who are really far right, if they are serious, they really need to support right-wing populism, and that, you know, okay, it's very pro-Zionist at the moment, but that doesn't have to be that way forever. And eventually the how will I put it, the forces of nationalism will raise questions, and they will become much more a part of national debate. And they will raise questions apropos our support of, you know, Zionist wars, whether they be in the Middle East, wherever they are in the Middle East. And let's face it, most of the wars that we've fought, obviously they say we've been fighting for oil, but really, has America really been fighting for oil? When they invaded Iraq, did they say, all right, we're nationalising the oil supply? No, they didn't. They all went to companies, you know, owned by BlackRock, or, you know, is run by a Jewish guy called Fink. You can't make that up, can you? A name like that. So there you go. Like, you know, are we really fighting for oil, or are we conducting the Israeli foreign policy in the Middle East? Because as far as I can see, there's no reason for the American military to be in the Middle East at all. You know, it should be defending the southern border, ladies and gentlemen. And I think, you know, from building a strong America and from fortifying our Western countries, then we can get our act together apropos our foreign policy. Because if we want to confront China, if we want to confront North Korea, if we want to at least have a detente with Russia, it's better to do it from a position of strength. So, you know, that's my thoughts on all this. I think right-wing populism is 100% the way to go at the moment. And that, you know, if you are somebody of the far right, whether you be a mild far righter or a real serious extreme right person, you should support this, even if people are pro-Israel. You know, I mean, to what extent is Trump really pro? I think Trump's pragmatic. I think Trump wants to essentially sabotage the globalist agenda of flooding our countries, you know, open borders, all that stuff. And I think that's way more important than whether he supports Israel. Because if you think about it, the state of Israel is essentially insignificant to us. Who cares if the Jewish people have a homeland? It might not even necessarily be a bad thing. You know, like they have their homeland, great. You know, and who cares if they do? You know what I mean? And what's going to happen to Israel, I think, is going to be decided between the Jews and the Arabs. You know, either the Jews will succeed in the reason and they will grow a greater Israel and they'll succeed, or a country like Iran will nuke them, and then, you know, they will have a situation where Israel is essentially destroyed, or at least you know, cut in half, or, you know, some horrible thing happening. And I think that will happen between them. And all we Europeans need to do is just sit back and watch it, because there's nothing I think us Europeans are going to be able to do to stop it. So, you know, that's my thoughts on all that whole ball of wax. So, you know, but it is a big issue, and I'm sure many people here at the Unshackled and who watch the report are wondering about that. And, you know, I've had, you know, many debates with people, and I've had people on the far right attack me for not being, whatever, right-wing enough. And, you know, really, I don't give a fuck. You know, I just state it as it is. I even like the odd idea on the left, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I mean, I believe, for example, in paying, you know, working class people appropriately. I'm not a huge believer in unions, but, you know, that's another report from Duggan Mount. But there we go. That's my thoughts on right-wing populism versus the far right or the extreme right. And hopefully I've elucidated my position somewhat. There it is.